Another episode of the MotoXPod Show. This week it's episode 260. This is the Vital MX MotoXPod Show presented by Race Tech and Boysen. We're going to have a fun show tonight. Our guests are Red Bull TLD GasGas Pierce Brown and Progressive Insurance's Twisted Tea Hep Motorsports Shane McElrath. Looking forward to talking to them and discussing Oakland and all the happenings. Before we get to it, let me introduce my co-host in studio, working the cameras, Scotty Thompson. What's up, Scotty?
Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing today?
We're doing good. I'm hoping there's no technical issues. We changed some audio things, so guys let us know if it sounds a little better, if we got rid of the buzz. Literally last moment, realized I didn't have the intro song queued up in the new way we're recording, so I think that might have been a little loud. We will work on fixing that. If it's a problem, let us know. Also, via FaceTime, all the way from Europe, my friend, Lewis Phillips. What's up, Lewis? I am good. I am excited to talk to you. I miss you. I can't wait for you to get back to the United States. I don't know if I believe that, but hey, we're going to break down a lot of stuff, a number of topics tonight on the Boysen air intake discussion. Boysen is excited to spotlight their factory racing's rider support program, a comprehensive support system for motocross and off-road riders. The program offers participants exclusive access to Boysen's products, yearly discounts, and the potential to become one of their new product development test riders. Join the community of Boysen Factory Flyers by visiting boysen.com to apply today. Lewis, Scotty, I think the first thing I want to get to tonight is Oakland in general. The track, Lewis, super technical, had a long turning rhythm, which I thought it was a very cool layout. Riders, they were kind of iffy about it, but what'd you think? What did you hear? Yeah, I think you're right. TJ, my other co-host, Scotty, I know you're working on something. TJ, my co-host, sent the question of what if Oakland, barring any weather issues, say weather was perfect, if that had been the second round with as aggressive as that track was, do you think the riders and the teams would have come unglued? No, if there hadn't been, just that track. Hang on, Lewis. What's up, Scotty?
They can't hear Lewis.
You can't hear Lewis. Okay, so we have an audio issue, but they can hear everything else.
We're fine. They just can't hear Lewis.
Can't hear Lewis. Okay. Yeah, let's do normal FaceTime. Let me take you off Bluetooth. We'll see if we'll get you back here in a second. Scotty, what did you think about the track in Oakland?
Man, I thought my first thought when I saw them racing was finally, like, this is what I want to see in a track. I think.
Hang on, Scotty. Can you hear me, Lewis? Let's end the FaceTime and we'll get you back on. FaceTime you back. You think you're good? Can you hear me?
I can hear you as long as you can hear me.
Yeah. Let us know if YouTube can hear it. We'll kind of go back into that in just a second. Definitely doesn't sound as good. We'll have to fix that. It was working a minute ago, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, just let us know if y'all can hear Lewis.
So let's go back into that then, Lewis. Kind of retouch on what you said about Oakland.
Yeah, I guess no one heard me say anything, so I will start from the top. What was I saying? Yeah, it's been a big debate this year whether we should just have easy tracks, because easy tracks lead to less separation, better racing. Maybe not better racing, but closer racing. And obviously, Oakland was a gnarly track, and everyone kind of complained, and we did have separation. The racing was okay, but it wasn't tight. It wasn't like the closest racing ever. But in hindsight, I would much rather take a race on a track like Oakland versus what we had at San Diego, which I do think was closer. Still wasn't the most amazing race ever, but the track, I thought San Diego was the worst track I've ever seen in my life.
And Scotty, back to you. We'll kind of start that whole thing over again.
Yeah.
What did you think of Oakland as a track? It had it had a whoop section to a long dragon's back, one of the longest I've ever seen, to another whoop section, the long turning rhythm lane, crazy transitions that just didn't flow. Watching it, it was exciting to watch those guys struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like when I first looked at the rhythm lanes, especially, I was like, finally, like something challenging, something that they can't just nail a quad everything without even thinking about it. I liked that, it led to stuff like Cooper found that line where he was quadding all the way in and doing it. It led for variation. I wasn't super crazy about technically three whoop sections in a row. I thought it did race well. I was a little surprised at that. I was kind of expecting that to kind of just be the focal point of the track. But overall, my favorite track so far of the year.
Yeah, the three, technically almost three whoop sections, Lewis, there was a lot of passes that happened because of those whoop sections. Cooper Webb made a mistake that cost him the lead. I think that was the heat race where he bobbled, and then your guy Chase got him, and
my guy Chase,
and Eli got him. There was a lot of issues. Pierce Brown, who we're going to talk to in a little bit, passed McAdoo in the main event, and then made a mistake in the whoops when he was jumping through, and McAdoo passed him right back, and then put the block pass on him that took him down. The sections of whoops made for a lot of passing. A lot of.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I feel like everyone's like amazed that we had kind of back-to-back whoop sections, but I feel like this was a normal occurrence not too long ago. Like, I feel like it was quite normal for us to have a long set of whoops, 180-degree turn, and then another set of whoops. I feel like that was kind of like something we saw every 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like, I feel like it has been a while since we had multiple whoop sections and that close together. But I think whoops are good. Whoops are better than normal rhythm sections, no? Well, okay, it depends on the situation and the conditions, but...
Yeah, Lewis, I think you're right. Like, that's kind of a normal thing to see two whoop sections. I think what it visually, like that,
it was almost like three.
The Dragon's Back really wasn't a Dragon's Back. It was like an elevated whoop section. So I think that's kind of why it looked like three whoop sections, even though technically it wasn't.
And the transitions too, Scotty, that after the third or second, whatever you want, the last whoop section, that rhythm section where they were tripling onto the table, going over single. Then they would try to triple out after that. That next transition was very tight. Mm-hmm. So those guys were clipping the triple or OJ in the triple, and it just you watch those guys struggle. Like they had a little bit of, there was a kink in their armor at times.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. It was like back in the 80s or 90s when the 125s couldn't always do the jump if they didn't, make the corner right, and they would clip something. You're like, oh crap, here we go.
Yeah, I agree, because I think, the whole debacle for all this is because of safety. We got to make it easier for the guys that, the LCQ guys and the guys that are trying to get into the sport to be able, so they're not in a dangerous situation. But that being said,
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, that you don't think that's why they changed some of the tracks down in the past?
For
just general safety?
Maybe for general, but not so much so that the guys that aren't factory level cannot die.
Okay, well, general safety, I think they've made it. But the guys that... Like, the guys that aren't going to jump those quads aren't going to jump those quads regardless. So I think I liked it, making more challenging for the leaders and making ultimately the finish of the race more challenging.
How about the long rhythm section that I talked about, Lewis? Most guys were going outside and tripling in, and Eli just kind of kept doubling in and doing a little bit different rhythm. And we saw a few other guys do that at times, but Eli just stuck to that. It seemed like he felt comfortable doing that. I guess my point is it was really cool that there were multiple options, and they all were fairly close. You're a big stat guy, so you probably looked at the different segment times, but it was fairly close.
Well, unfortunately, Jamie, the segments were messed up, so there were no segment times this week.
Was this AMA?
I imagine that someone rode over a timing loop or destroyed a timing loop, or because for 2 of the 4 segments, we don't have times past that one.
Fantastic.
Someone destroyed something.
Okay.
But on that rhythm, no, like when you look at it like that, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. Maybe Oakland actually had everything because it was gnarly. There was separation, but there was separation because the best guys rose to the top, and that's nice. We like that. There were rhythms where guys were doing different things. We like that. Yeah, in hindsight, now that I think about it, what was the bad thing about the Oakland track? I'm not sure there was anything.
I don't think so. I liked it.
From sitting at home, there really wasn't anything. It was very exciting. I mean, you could have used a sand pit, but, other than that.
I would take a whoop section over a sand section.
I was joking.
All day.
I was joking. We had a couple good sand pits or sand sections. Not sand, but it was good. Okay, how about this, Lewis or Scotty? Oakland as a whole, nobody that I know has ever said, love going to Oakland. There's always these issues. I heard rumors it might be going back to San Francisco or across the bay. But I think AC's car got broke into. Lewis, did you hear that? Is that confirmed?
Oh yeah, AC's car got broken into. I think Barcia's got broken. Last year, I know that last year the Monster Video people had like all of their equipment stolen.
Okay.
So what's that? $100,000 worth of stuff. I remember the very first time I went to Oakland, and actually, funnily enough, I was on the Vital forum. And randomly, I just saw a post that said something like, "Oh, make sure you stay safe in Oakland." And not to me, like some people having a discussion. And I was like, "That's weird. Why would they say that?" So then I Googled, like, "Is Oakland okay?" And Google put the frighteners on me. And that first year, because I knew no better, that first year, I was staying in a Days Inn next to the stadium.
Oh, that's
And
terrible.
I was like, this is brilliant. Why has no one booked this hotel that is next to the stadium? I don't understand. Like, look how close I'm going to be. And honestly, I still have memories of that. The things that went on in that hotel, it's a miracle I'm here talking to you today.
And Scotty, you listened to Pulp last night. I haven't had a chance to get through it all the way. You said that Jason Thomas
JT saw some kind of robbery of sorts, yes.
Wow. Yeah, they have to get. It has to go. Have you heard that it may be going to San Francisco?
I've heard like from 5 different people, and I would say that it's basically 50-50. Like half the people are telling me yes, half the people are telling me no. So actually, I don't.
Okay.
Yes, I think, is anyone going to be sad if Oakland leaves the schedule? I mean, and it's not even like if Oakland leaves the schedule, then we're screwing over those fans because they can just go to San Francisco. So
exactly.
Happy days. But, and maybe this is off topic, I hear now that San Francisco is no better.
I haven't been there a long time. I don't think it is much better from what I hear either.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's got to be a little better. Maybe it's minimally.
It's just life out in California way.
It's not all that bad.
I know.
That area is pretty rough. Were you going to say something else?
No. So Lewis had said something about that he didn't like San Diego at all.
The track, yeah. Not the
track. No, the track. Imagine if this had been round 2, and then we saw this awesome track, and then went to the San Diego track round 3. How much more disappointed in the track would you have been, Lewis?
Well, and I brought up while you were dealing with the audio issue, so I don't know if everybody heard it. TJ sent me a text like he wanted to know if the weather had been good at round 2 after A1, and they had raced this track, would the teams and riders have been freaked out because the track was so technical that early on in the season? Would people have kind of lost their minds a little bit? Like, oh, are you guys trying to kill us? I mean, I don't know that they would have really said anything. Go ahead, Lewis.
I don't think the track was that technical.
Right.
I think you're getting a bit carried away with yourself now.
Hey, man,
that's what he does.
It wasn't anything. It wasn't Travis Pastrana's 2009 St. Louis layout. Like this, it was a good track. It wasn't like the most crazy track we've ever seen. It just raced. It had separation. It made the top guys rise to the top. We liked that. It was not this crazy track that is mind blowing. Let's hit the burners on that one.
I'm just relaying TJ's question because he didn't have the decency to be in studio tonight. He feels like his job is more important. So, TJ, your question was asked. A lot of empty gates.
I'm completely stumped.
A lot of empty gates in Oakland. A lot of the guys just couldn't make the trip. With the privateers couldn't make the trip coming all the way from Tampa all the way back to Oakland to turn around, come back to Arlington. Bunch of empty gates.
Yeah, but we had 40 plus in each class, didn't we? Still, I think the lowest was 42 in. I can't remember which class it was, but didn't we have 40? Like the lowest number of entries was 42 in either 250 or 450.
It sure seemed like there was 3 or 4 gates empty in the heat races.
That was when that would have been when I checked the entry list on Friday. So maybe it did end up a little less than that. But my litmus test is as long as we stay above 40, it's fine. Once you drop below 40, it's like, we're putting everyone in the night show. But if you can stay above 40, then I think it's okay. And if they did that, I mean, like you say, maybe some people just didn't show. Well, okay, in 450s, there was one guy who didn't qualify. So that was okay. Yeah, and in 250s, there were 3 guys who didn't qualify. So we had, I'm happy as long as some guys don't make the night show. If we're turning up and we're handing out participation medals and everyone's in the night show, I'm not so happy.
Okay, maybe I misjudged. I thought I saw some empty gates. Lewis, you don't ride anymore, but we are going to get you.
Yeah, I don't ride currently. Not ever, currently.
Currently, we're going to get you back on a bike, and I want you to know that you can get the same great products, settings, and services that Race Tech offers locally to you with a tuner you can drive to and likely see at your local racetracks. Race Tech has a network of service centers around the globe who have access to the same parts and settings as Race Tech's headquarters in Corona, California, and all you have to do is log on to racetech.com to find the Race Tech service center closest to you. This week's featured Race Tech service center is close to you once you get back to the United States. It's Crow Performance in San Diego, California. I have to open this window up because I can't read it on my sheet of paper anymore. Mike Crow previously worked for Race Tech in both the R&D and custom shock departments. He still is employed full-time by Race Tech to handle technical support in addition to running his own Race Tech suspension and engine service center in San Diego, California. So, Lewis, when you get a bike, hit up Crow Performance in San Diego. Race Tech will take care of you.
I will do that.
And if you're listening and you need your suspension serviced, Scotty, racetech.com.
I'm on it.
You can get it done. All right, let's talk about, this is the big topic. I'm looking at the time. We got about 10 minutes before we get Pierce on. Eli Tomac wins again. The Sexton ship, is it sailing safely, Lewis? Are we good? Is it sailing? I mean,
sailing safely. It's sailing lovely.
He almost sailed to victory. Once again, had two problems, really. He had the issue on the Dragon's back, which was scary. And then right after that, he had the speed and style performance of trying to do a 180 on the track.
Jamie,
Lewis.
my friend.
Lewis.
Can I please direct you in the direction of a stat?
You can.
Chase Sexton has more podiums than Tomac and more podiums than Webb. Now, what does this mean? Because the narrative here is that Chase is throwing it away and making more mistakes than anyone, but yet he has more podiums. So if I was a lawyer in court, I here have a number that challenges the narrative, and I'm not here to make a decision. I'm here to ask you, my friend, who I trust dearly with my life, what is this narrative getting out of hand? Is it true? Is it wrong? Because as I say, the fact that he has more podiums than Eli Tomac would tell you that he's actually the consistent one. And this has just come to me, I challenge you with this. Eli Tomac had a bigger crash at Anaheim 2 than Chase Sexton's had all season. So again, is the narrative, I feel like the narrative is a low-hanging fruit that people have just grabbed because it's low-hanging. But if you look at the numbers and you look at what's actually happened so far, maybe it's not as big a deal, as big an issue as people make out.
I think you may be right. Eli did have the bigger crash A2, and then even this week he went off the track and had a close one, which allowed Cooper to tighten it up. He just didn't go down.
No, just to be clear, Chase has made more mistakes than Eli. Yes, I agree with that. I just think the narrative of, Chase Sexton throws it away every time is wrong. And actually, if you want to put a nicer little spin on this, Chase has had more podiums than the other two. He missed the podium once in San Diego. The reason he missed the podium was because he was knocked down by another rider. So that wasn't actually in his control. So really, had that incident with Barcia was it? It was probably Barcia. He got knocked down by someone. It was probably, bet it was Barcia.
We're getting to Barcia in a little while.
Had that incident not happened, he may have a 100% podium record so far. Which then screams consistency, which means this narrative, this low-hanging fruit, is wrong. Now, people are going to say, Lewis, you're being biased, blah, blah, blah. No. I'm just here. I'm here challenging the narrative. I'm not a sheep. I'm not a sheep, Jamie.
I know you're... Nope. Scotty, thoughts?
Yeah, Lewis, I didn't know if you had saw me on the Sexton ship, but I've been there with you. I've been riding with you, sailing through the seas this season too. What the point that I wanted to make, and you kind of just, a side point is, Eli made a mistake in that main too. Obviously, Chase was more. I said that. Oh, you said that?
Thanks for listening.
Well, I was listening to my buddy Lewis over here. So yeah, he made the mistake too. Well, what I was going to say is, yes, Chase's mistake was more costly, but was the mistake itself bigger? Because his front end just kind of tweaked. And Tomac went off the track. So yes, the mistake was more costly for Sexton, but really in reality, was it a bigger mistake? And then the point that I wanted to get to was, you want to say that that Sexton can't hang on to it and wants to throw it away.
I didn't say that.
If he is probably the most likely person to win either the next 3 races or 3 races in a row. And once in a theoretical world, he wins 3 wins in a row, all of this stuff at the beginning of this season would just be blown over.
If he wins the championship, it all gets blown. Yeah, you're right. We'll forget the past and it'll go away. But it's something that is, like Lewis said, low-hanging fruit. That's fair. They use it on the TV program. I have a little bit of a rant where they, in the middle of the friggin' main event, they go to this piece that takes up the entire screen, so I can't watch the race, to tell us all the times that Chase is throwing it away. Lewis, I heard you had your
15-minute rant.
Yeah, you had a rant on the review show about that half the time, or most of them, they weren't even really quote unquote throwing away moments.
The San Diego heat race. What does that have to do with anything? Right. As I said, you may as well include footage of him on a 50 tipping over in a field.
He fell on a PW 50 3 years ago, or 13 years ago.
It does seem like we as
low-hanging fruit.
What's that?
Low-hanging fruit.
We as media, not you, but some of the media has tried to use that as a storyline, and I hope that storyline goes away. But how did you, just in general, I'm switching subjects a little bit. The fact that they played that piece in the middle of the main event just irritated the crap out of me. I want to watch racing. I don't care about that piece.
That stuff doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I appreciate production value. What I don't appreciate is when the script is wrong. When I saw that, I was like, I wasn't angry because they disrupted the racing. I was angry because I felt like the narrative was incorrect.
Scotty?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Lewis on that one.
Chase almost didn't race because he's still pretty banged up. The fact these guys, and we can talk about McAdoo and RJ in a little bit, the warriors they are, Scotty, coming out, and as bad as his arm looked, and as bad as his side looked, and he still almost won a 450 main event, he's not getting enough credit for that.
No, I agree. I think that, you can't argue the speed that he's had this year. I think he's on it, and I think it'll work itself out, like I was saying last week. And, Lewis Darkside kind of ruined the race for me a little bit, even though he's going to...
I did not.
He texted me, wow. So then now I'm watching the race because I work Saturday night. So I'm watching the race, and I see Sexton has a 5-second gap, and then all I can see is... Well, Jamie said, wow, so obviously something is going to happen.
I said, wow, when Cooper quadded over the table on that first
I don't know when that wow comes, the wow came.
I just wanted to give you a little bit of, oh, God, something happened. I can't wait. I wanted to make it more exciting for you.
It tainted my viewing.
This seems like a private couples thing that you two should take up in a weekly counseling session.
What about him racing, though? How do you feel about your guy racing through adversity?
Wait, what do you mean? That was a very vague question. What is the adversity and who is my guy?
The hematoma he had on his arm, is he mortal? I mean, that's a lot to go out and then perform at that level. It's very impressive.
Oh, we're talking about McAdoo now.
Yep, I'm an idiot. Chase, what did Chase have? Chase had something.
It was his knee.
His knee. God, okay. Well, make fun of me, guys.
Okay, because if I was confused, everyone else is probably confused.
Well, I'm sure
Chase
they are.
Crashed on the Wednesday before Oakland, and his knee was swollen.
We won't take the low-hanging fruit.
No, take the low-hanging fruit. You can here we go.
Stop acting like an idiot. You're the idiot. Don't be an idiot. Changed my life.
Sorry. How about we'll switch subjects since we're way off base. And I got to get Pierce on in a second. How about Eli admitting that he was not comfortable in Tampa? I thought that was pretty open. He was fairly open in a lot of those press day interviews.
Yeah, but let's be honest. What else could he say? Because if he wasn't comfortable, then if he came out and went, "Yeah, I was comfortable," then Chase and Cooper are rubbing their hands together, going, "That was him when he was comfortable. Lovely, we'll have some of that. If that's him comfortable, then it doesn't matter that he qualified first, because when he's comfortable, he finishes fifth." It was nice to see the openness. let's be honest, it was nice that he was even doing interviews, because it wasn't too long ago that Eli wouldn't have even approached the subject. But yeah, he kind of had nothing else. There was nothing else for him to say. Because if he didn't say that, that would be more concerning. It's quite obvious that he wasn't comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I just was glad that he answered the question. We're going to get off of the Eli Tomac topic for a second, and we're going to talk about WUSA, which is your source for all things wheels. Scotty, do you know 3 of the 6 podium guys this weekend are on W Wheels?
Oh, of course they were.
Of course they were. Eli Tomac, Cooper Webb, and RJ Hampshire. Tonight, W Wheels brings us from Red Bull Factory GasGas Pierce Brown. What's going on, Pierce?
What's going on? How are you?
We're doing good, man. Glad to get you on. It's been a little while since we've had you on, and dude, you had a really good ride this weekend. I was really enjoyed watching you track down McAdoo and RJ, and I thought you were going to get a podium.
Yeah. No, I'm so good on too. It's been a little bit, dude. I know. I felt good last weekend. Felt like you said, that podium was mine. I had the 3rd spot. I just made a little mistake in the whoops and then let him get me back. But yeah, it's kind of all she wrote. I was feeling good all night though. The track was tough, really tough. 3 sets of whoops. Not much really of a break. It was a pretty busy track, I'd say. So it was a good racetrack though. Made for a lot of separation, and I feel like that's something we haven't really had my first couple rounds. But yeah, happy with my riding, just not the result, I'd say.
Yeah, and I want to get more into the track in a minute, but I want to go back to the main event. You, at one point, I believe, were the fastest rider on the track. You were outside the top five starting out. Tracked those guys down, passed Cam. You could have probably made a much more aggressive pass had you wanted. Jumped through the whoops, and you talked about making a little mistake. It looked like you kind of OJ'd a set, and then it just threw you kind of funny. And then Cam, he brake checked you a little long, dude. I felt like it. In a lot of racing situations, that was a good pass, but you had just passed him clean.
Yeah. I gave him some room for sure. Like you said, I could have been a little bit more aggressive with it. I could tell it was the time of the race where he was starting to go backwards, and I feel like he kind of had to do something to keep that podium spot, and he did, which, I mean, if I was in his position, I'd do the same thing. But just a bummer when it's on your end, you know?
Yeah, it's nothing too upsetting though. You kind of just accept it as a racing thing.
I mean, yeah, it's a racing thing. At the end of the day, like, he didn't come in and sum my front end off. He checked up, waited till I fell, and then went on with his race. And I mean, that's.
Yeah, it's a little much.
I can't be too upset about it. I mean, yeah, like he could have, with my pass being semi-aggressive, not dirty, I feel like he could have had enough respect not to do that back to me. But I don't know. It's what it is. I've been thinking about it a little bit more, and there's really no point in dwelling over it. You know, we still have a long year ahead of us, and I mean, I don't want to get caught into a freaking piss match like some guys in the 450 class are, you know?
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, Pierce, one of the positives that I saw was how fast you caught that lead group. And I know Darkside kind of mentioned it a little bit. I just kind of wanted to see if you could dive further into, you know, what happened with the track, or maybe, you know, what kind of happened when you caught up to them to not be able to get around them, because you caught up to them so fast.
I know, yeah. I caught up to him quick. I had a terrible start. I was I think I was the last one coming out of the corner, and somehow ended up 4th coming over the finish line. So I was right on him, caught up to Cam and RJ, and then RJ fell, and I thought I was going to be able to pounce on that and then work on McAdoo. But the corner after RJ fell, McAdoo cut down when I was going to kind of block RJ, but I couldn't, so I was stuck in 4th. And then RJ got right back around McAdoo like it was nothing, but I was trying my butt off trying to get around him. But he was countering everything that I was trying, and I was in like the stage of the race where I was like, all right, I haven't really been in that fight in a little bit, so I was like, I'll just hang in here and then wait for a mistake, and then saw my opportunity. I took it. Could I have maybe tried harder to get it earlier? Yeah. I just wanted that experience of being in the fight. Shoot, it's just, one of those things. Go to bed, like, wish I would have done that, wish I would have done this, but can't really change it, so just got to learn from it.
Yeah, I think that's best. You don't want to dwell on anything negative. Then I'm going to ask you a question, but that's maybe somewhat negative. But the crash at A1, were there any lingering effects from that, or was it just night of, you were a little, just too sore, couldn't make it out?
So yeah, that was like kind of a bummer because I fell hard. I was sore for sure, but I've been in more pain and raced in multiple scenarios. And I mean, it was the first round of the night or first round of the season. I mean, I was going to go out and do everything I can to at least get some points. But I was in the Asterix rig or Alpine Star rig, and I was complaining about, it was mainly my leg. And then I said something about my neck being sore. And then next thing I know, I have a neck brace on me and I'm getting sent to the hospital. I'm like, yo, like, I didn't know it was that serious. Like, I thought I could have raced, but that kind of spooked me a little bit. I ended up getting my neck checked out and everything came back fine. But I mean, in the moment, you're always going to be taking the safe route and like telling the doctor, like, what's wrong, what hurts. But I almost feel like that was kind of unfortunate for me because I could have raced that night for sure and at least got some points. But I was more sore from my leg than my neck, but my neck was the reason they wouldn't let me out there. But yeah, my leg was bugging me for the next month. Like it was sore for a little bit all the way through Anaheim 2. I think after Anaheim 2, I'd say I was finally back to 100% healthy and then regain all the confidence that I lost because, I mean, I had a really good couple weeks leading up to A1. I was feeling good, and then that happened, and it was kind of like, oh, shoot, like almost a reality check. And then you start doubting yourself, and that's never good. But
it's such a mental game.
Yeah, it is. But no, right now I'm back to 100%. It's been a little bit since the crash, but yeah, that was one of those things. I felt like I could have been out there and I should have been out there, but I wasn't able to.
I want to touch on something. They played a little piece on you during the race where they had talked to you and you said you just haven't put it together yet. You've had good speed, but haven't put it together yet. What do you feel like it's going to take to put it together? You're still young. You're still, learning certain lessons, obviously. What do you think you need to put it together?
I think I could have put it together last weekend if I had to start. I'm going to be honest. That's the last missing piece. If I started up front and I didn't have to worry about making passes, I feel like that's when everything's going to fall into place for me. But everything else, like I'm driving with the bike. Everything's been great with that. The team's been great. I've been making big progress with everything off bike and on bike. I'd say it's just the starts. I need to get those down and start with the group instead of behind them, because playing catch up when you're racing guys like Jet, RJ, and McAdoo, they're no slouches. So you're gonna have to be on your game if you want to come through the pack with those guys. But if you start out with them, then it's whoever's night.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you didn't start with him, and you were right. You caught up to him, so keep that as a positive. You were able to come from behind and catch those guys. So yeah, you've got it in you.
Yeah, that's one thing I could take away from the weekend. I felt like I was, like I said, riding really well and showed the speed that I've been shown at the practice tracks, and that was definitely a good feeling. But yeah, just the result didn't show, and 5th place again. That's it was tough, but the speed's there. so I'm not stressing that. It's more so just getting the reps down, getting start styled, and then making sure, because that was such a tough racetrack. It was just survival pretty much. Like whoever made the least amount of mistakes was going to be the best guy, because I mean everybody's making mistakes. You couldn't not out there
For sure.
But yeah, this is one of those things you can only duplicate that in a race. Like you can't get a track like that or a scenario like that at the practice track with your teammates, you know? So, yeah, it's one of those things. I just gotta keep on trucking, keep on getting my laps in, making it to the races, making progress. And I feel like that's where we're at right now.
You say that January was tough, obviously, after the crash. Truthfully, if you were fully healthy the whole of January and you had momentum from the off-season, where do you think you would have been, and what were you expecting of yourself?
Yeah, that's one of those things, like a shoulda, coulda, woulda. But I mean, coming into the season, I had my sights set on wins, consistent podiums. That was my goal. I feel like if I had been healthy from round one on, that's where I should have been. Would I have been there? No one would know. But that's mentally where I was at coming into the season.
Scotty, you got something?
Yeah. So, hey, Pierce. So I know y'all kind of transitioned to the new year model bike this year, and I just kind of want to know how that's gone for you. And now that you have this 5-week break, what part of the bike are you going to give most of your focus to?
Yeah, the new bike's been great. I from day one have fell in love with it. Everything has went smooth with the preseason testing. We're honestly not too far from where we were in November, December-ish right now. So that's always a good feeling. I'd say, I mean, it's a big chassis change. Benefits, I'd say cornering and helps in whoops compared to last year's bike. And I've hopped on outdoors a little bit early. This is actually after A2, I hopped on for the week. And then, this week I'm back in outdoors. So I'm 2 weeks down and starting some outdoors testing, because I haven't really ridden outdoors on the new bike yet. And right away, it's great. I love it. All around a great bike. Everything I'd say is a step up from last year. There's really nothing that I'd say we need to focus on as much as just getting everything, say 1-2% better, you know?
Are you like, building on what we were talking about a minute ago, are you content with what you've done in your career so far? Or did you think that you would be further ahead at this point? Are you further ahead than you thought you would be? Like, looking at kind of the overall picture of where the roadmap that you had in your head, are you happy with like how you've progressed each year and where you're at the moment?
For everything that I've been through, I'm happy to be where I am right now, but it's not where I wish I was, you know? I had to push through tons of injuries the first year or two, and kind of that was almost like a rebuild year in my second or third year. I was just getting back from an ACL surgery, and my confidence was at an all-time low. I felt like I had to relearn how to ride a dirt bike and relearn how to do everything. And it was that off season of 2020 that was, I'd say, rock bottom for me. I had to push through a bunch of stuff mentally and physically, and I ended up having a decent year and then even better year this past year, which was a breakthrough for me, I'd say. But for where I want to be and know I can be, I'm still far from it, I'd say.
And you've mentioned the mental side. That's such a huge part of the sport. We've already kind of just touched on that. do you have a mental coach or somebody that you go to talk to when it comes to like, man, I'm just struggling with this thing mentally?
I don't have anyone hired. I have a couple friends that I'll reach out to. They've been through stuff with their careers. So I'll ask them and pick their brains, little stuff like that. But I don't have anybody I've hired to work with on that side of things. But yeah, like you said, it is I'd say 80% of our sport. Just like any other sport, it's a mental game, and yeah, you have to have all the pieces, and that's definitely, I'd say, a big chunk of it.
You work with Will Hahn. Do you talk to him and use his experience any?
Yeah. No, Will's been the best mentor I could ask for. He's been there through thick and thin. He's just an open book. I could pick his brain about whatever, and yeah, I'm just stoked to have someone like him in my corner. And I'm buddies with Coop, pick his brain about some stuff, but you know what Coop is, he don't like talking too much. So but being around people like that, like I'd say like Cooper and Will, they're just their presence brings an energy that like you can't duplicate in anybody else, you know, because both of them are champions, and they're some bad dudes. So I every time I'm around them, I just try to be like a sponge and absorb everything I can, you know.
Definitely. Scotty?
Yes. Hey, Pierce. So first, it's kind of a qualifier question. Do you watch the broadcast when you're not when it's on the opposite coast?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I didn't know if you like watched it live or just kind of went back and watched the mains, but I just kind of want to know from a pro perspective, what is your general thoughts on how the program's going so far? And maybe something that you would add or change or take out, or, you know, just your general opinion on how the broadcast has been.
The broadcast, like, is it the race day broadcast are you talking about, or
just like when you're watching the night show? Yeah.
For me as a fan, there's nothing that I could really pick out and change. You know, I think it's a good broadcast and a good show they put on.
So I want to go back to Oakland for just a second. You talked about how technical that track was. Sitting at home, and we were just talking about this before you came on. It seemed like it made for great racing because the track was the transitions weren't great. The dirt, you know, I guess it got ruddy, and you guys were making mistakes. The best riders in the world were making mistakes, and then the other riders that Coop was like 14 seconds down at one point and caught up, and you were catching up. It made for such great racing. Can you see an appreciation when a track is very difficult, very technical, that it's still a good racetrack, even though it's pretty gnarly?
Yeah, no, it's that was one of those nights I almost would have rather be a fan than be out there, because those whoops in the main event, they were treacherous. It was a man's track for sure. Made for some great racing, like you said, though. Like after you do the triple into that next section, pretty much from the triple to the finish line, people made some passes there, but it almost funneled down into one line in the main event because everybody was going inside, jump through the whoops, and then the Dragon's back. It was almost a jump up and then off, and then that last whoop section you had to skim, and those were beat up. I was going through those in the side lap. I was not stoked, but made for great racing, like you said. Everybody was making mistakes out there, and I could respect the 450 class for how gnarly that track was, because it was beat up for ours. And at the end of their main, it was brutal. Like some of those guys, they were struggling getting around the track, you know, like I couldn't imagine racing it, but made for great racing, like you said. And I'm sure the fans loved it.
Your schedule, the West Coast schedule, is pretty awkward, especially with the rescheduling of round 2, had a week off or a couple weeks off, go back to Oakland.
Yeah.
Now you have like a month off. Does that work for you? Or once you get in the groove, I would think you'd want to keep going.
Yeah, no, it's, I was actually just talking about this with somebody earlier today, but it's been a weird schedule this year. I've never done West Coast before. I've always been an East Coast guy. Last year, East Coast, we did, I want to say like 6 in a row, and then we had a little break, and then it was Salt Lake, and we were done. But yeah, this year, every time we start getting the ball rolling, we have a break. Like after A2, I had a pretty subpar performance. I was upset, but I was fired up. I was like, I want to get back out there next weekend. Like, put me on the gate now. But we had to wait another 2 weeks, and then we get back out there, and it's almost like you have to dust the cobwebs off a little bit and get back into that race flow. And then by the end of the night, you're firing, you're riding good, feeling good. And then, yeah, get done. You have to wait another 4 or 5 weeks until the next one. So
Yeah.
that's been awkward, I'd say, because the rest of our season, we don't have back-to-back races. We have like a weekend on, weekend off, weekend on, weekend off until we're done. So that's going to be hard to manage, I'd say. But for me, it makes for, I mean, a more exciting outdoor season. Because by the end of Supercross last year, I was pretty smoked, and the outdoors hadn't even started yet. I'm like, dude, we have 12 weekends of this. But I'm hoping this year we're gonna have a little bit more motivation and some fire to come out swinging at round 1.
I've got one more question for you, and it may be a short one, depending on the answer. Are you locked in through 24, or is this a contract year for you?
No, I'm locked in through 24. I re-signed at the end of last year for 2 more years. So I'm through 24, then after 24. Not sure yet.
Okay. All right. Well, that was, I was kind of wondering how that motivates you and how that, it changes things sometimes. Guys feel like, hey, I've got in a contract year, but if you're locked in, you've got a little bit of comfort, a little bit of cushion. Man.
A little bit of comfort, but at the same time, you don't really ever want to think like that. I know I have to be on my game every weekend and perform like I'm hired to do. So, but at the same time, I could use this year as another building year for next year. Next year is my year to be expected to come out swinging and be the guy to be fighting for wins and hopefully the title.
Well, Pierce, I want to apologize again for the preseason press conference, the way I worded my question to you. It was a little disrespectful, so I want to say publicly, again, I apologize for that, and I appreciate you being understanding, man.
All good. I was just me, but preseason, my confidence was peaking. I wanted to come out swinging, and I don't know, for me, it's one of those things, like in my head, I'm like, yeah, like I'm coming out to win, and then like I'll have somebody like one of my close buddies like, oh, like, you think you're like gonna be on the podium or what? I'm like, no, dude, I'm winning. That was kind of like how it's going out. I was like, no, dude, but it's all good. No need to apologize.
All right, well, Pierce, thanks for having some time for us tonight. Look forward to seeing you again in about a month.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be a little bit, but I'll see you guys here soon.
All right, Pierce, thank you, man.
Have a good one.
You
see
too.
Ya.
That's Pierce Brown, brought to you tonight by WUSA. Don't forget to go to damn it, I muted the wrong one. Awesome. I'm just absolutely terrible at this job. Go to WUSA.com and use promo code MotoXPod Show to save. Thanks to WUSA. I also want to thank Prox, which is rooted in racing from motocross to off-road, supporting teams like Pro Circuit Kawasaki and Pro Yamaha, who I will be racing for, Scotty, in Daytona at the GNCC. They asked me today what number you want. I was like, well, 3, dude. You probably got some left over from Tomac's bike. Let's just get those. But then McElrath said, I can give you those. I can give you Tomac's, but they have a red background. That means you got to do the pro class for 3 hours. I'm out.
You got it.
Anyway, Prox also supports SLR Honda. Prox has been dedicated to supplying quality components since 1975. From complex jobs like engine rebuild to simple maintenance, filters, chains, sprockets, Prox aims to bridge the gap between OE quality and affordability. Find Prox at your local dealer or online retailer. Visit prox-usa.com to search parts for your bike and follow Prox on social media. Lewis, I like Pierce's response there at the end. He's like, hey, man, I came in, his confidence was high. He came in to win. And, yeah, I kind of knocked him down a little bit with my stupid comment.
Yeah, but then I don't think he remembers what your question was, because he said something about someone questioning him about, are you going to be on the podium this year? And that wasn't your question.
He just said his buddies did that. Yeah, his buddies. So he was saying he was super confident because his buddies were asking that. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to win. And then I went in and was like, yeah, you had a bad year last year, when he really was third overall.
Okay, now, I thought he maybe didn't remember who you were, but that's impossible. My friend Jamie is such a memorable character.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows who I am. Okay, we've got a little bit of time before Shane McElrath. I want to get back to the top 3 450 guys. Cooper, Webb, Lewis, and Scotty. As I said, I think it was 7 minutes left or somewhere about that. He was like 14 seconds behind. And then all of a sudden he's right there. Yeah, Eli made a mistake, but what do you think it is about Webb that he kind of starts off slow and just all of a sudden at the end, he's like a totally different guy. And I don't know that I like that right now. He needs to be that way at the beginning because I feel like he's costing himself some positions.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a game plan though, or a conscious decision. I think that quite simply, his skill set, who he is as a rider, he is the strongest when the track has broken down and it's the last 5 minutes. Whereas when it's at the beginning and the track is at its freshest, okay, at the beginning of the main event, it was already beat in Oakland, but it was still fresher than it was at the end. That's his weakness. He doesn't have the raw speed to go with Tomac and Sexton at that point. I'm sure you know he would love to go with them at the beginning because he would have won that race if he had. But that is just talk about strengths and weaknesses for each guy. That is his weakness and his strength. Can I ask you a question?
You absolutely can.
Because I feel like you don't get to talk enough on here. I feel like you ask our opinions, but you also have an opinion. So, question for you. Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. So Tomac won Oakland.
Yep. You would think that gives him the confidence and the momentum, but does it? Bear with me. So Tomac has confidence because he just won Oakland. He's the most recent winner. He's won 4 races this year. He's got the series lead. That's the reason he has confidence and momentum. But then on the flip side, Chase can sit there today and go, well, hang on. I got beat straight up in the heat. I crashed on Wednesday and my knee was swollen. And I still managed to ride away from Tomac in the main event and break him. Because before the crash, Chase had broken him. So in that sense, maybe Sexton's the one with the momentum and the confidence. But then Webb is sat there going, at the start of the main event, I was nowhere. I was off. I was not even in the picture. And somehow I almost won that race. I was 8 tenths away from winning. So he sat there going, well, hang on. In a race where I am that far off at the beginning and I almost win, I'm pretty good. So like all 3 guys have a reason to feel confident and not so confident. Because, like I say, Tomac is confident because he's the winner. But even if he wasn't mentally strong, he could be sat there today going, yeah, I won, but, Chase did have me beat. And what if that happens again in Arlington? How do I respond if he doesn't crap? Like, everyone has a reason to be really confident and really not confident. So who is the guy who truly has the momentum? Well, Lewis, I don't really have an opinion on that. Thanks for asking. I think to be a champion, all champions have confidence no matter the situation. So I think you're 100% right on all of them. They always think they're the guy and think they can win. We've had discussions, Scotty and I, about Chase. Could he be losing his mental strength because of some of the things going on? But no, I don't think so. I think these champions, they find the positives and they go, look, I'm good enough. Just all the reasons you just gave, they're good enough. And Cooper maybe right now might have the most confidence because after that track being so bad with technically we're calling it 3 sets of whoops, which we say Cooper's not good in, he still tracked those guys down at the end of the race with a track that has an obstacle that he's technically not that great at. But I think they all are going to have confidence almost no matter what because they're champions. They're all capable of winning the 450 championship. So, but if I was going to go, I think Cooper's got the most confidence right now because he thrives off that.
See, that's where this is like fascinating to me because I wouldn't say that Cooper is the guy with the most confidence, but yet I can't actually tell you why you're wrong, because as I say, each guy has a reason to feel that way. Like it's a question with no answer, but it's a bench racing topic that can last hours because who? Yeah,
I think, at the end of the day, the fact that all three guys were 6 rounds in, all three guys are within 7 points. I mean, that gives them all confidence, like you're saying. I think the only thing that you can kind of cherry on top is we are going to a Triple Crown this weekend, which Tomac doesn't necessarily like, but statistically has been good at. And then we're going to Daytona, which he's the most winning person in Daytona. So I think those 2 specific races maybe could be the little cherry on top of giving Eli a little more confidence. But I mean, Chase has the raw speed, and Cooper has shown that he can catch him at the end. So like you said, there's really no answer because it's wide open, and I'm just getting my popcorn and buckling up and just hoping for the best.
The reality is, Lewis, it doesn't really matter because the season doesn't start until Daytona in 2 weeks. That's when we'll see where the confidence is.
Well, not to
was a
tease
joke.
everyone, but next Wednesday, 1 week today, we have a 2-hour podcast with Carmichael coming out where we get into the season starting in Daytona and whether he actually believed that or whether he was just talking himself into a confidence thing.
I can't wait for that. Soon. I can't wait for that. A lot of people have asked me when that's coming out. That same week, we're going to have...
It was meant to be today, but we delayed it by a week.
There's going to be a Jeannie Carmichael one coming out the day after. That's going to be even better than the Ricky one.
Okay, thank you for that. Not a competition, Jamie. We're a team.
Yeah, I'm just teasing because I knew it would fire you up. I can't wait for the Ricky one. I'm very excited. That thing's 2 hours?
Well, I can send it to you if you like.
I know. I want to get it with everybody else.
Okay.
It's 2 hours, though, right?
2 hours, 10 minutes. 2005, 2006, and 2007.
That's going to be awesome. Any more thoughts on Cooper and the confidence there? You got any more to say, Scotty?
No, I mean, it's his, that's his wheelhouse. He's I was a little bit surprised as Lewis was to say that you think that he has the most momentum because, I mean, he got straight dropped. And then, he fought his way back.
Came right back because he's the man.
But they both made mistakes that we talked about earlier that got him back into that thing. So
I think my point is that Cooper has to have a little bit of chip on his shoulder. Generally, we kind of see he needs something, and I think coming back like that and him telling himself, "Oh, I got these guys. At any point, I can do it." I believe that's probably what he's telling himself, even if it's not the case. That's where I say I think he builds his confidence, and he's probably the most confident. I think Eli always thinks he can win, unless he's not comfy and he just backs it down. So I think his confidence is kind of neutral. He's a 5. Yeah. He's just confident. And then Chase, I do feel like Chase might be up and down right now because we've seen him, Lewis, holding his head in his hands when he's so frustrated. So the confidence might be down at least at the end of the night in some events. But come race time, it's back up. I think Cooper is super confident all the time right now. It's a guess.
Well, this is as I was saying though. Everyone has a reason to not be confident and be confident because, as you say, okay, Chase could beat himself up right now, and some people think he is based on the way he's acting on the podium and the photos of him. But if I was in his corner, I would go, "Hey, you just broke Tomac," and then you would think that would make him go, "You're right." And equally, if I wanted to tear Tomac down, who's really high after his win, I'd go, "Yeah, but Chase had you there," and then he'd be like, "Oh no, yeah, you're right." And same with Webb. Webb could be really confident, and you could go to him, "Well, what if Chase hadn't a crash?" And he'd go, "Yeah, that's a good point." And then he'd start questioning himself. So everyone has a reason to be confident, and everyone equally has a reason to question themselves, which is why this is such a good title fight. And thankfully it is, because after the first 2 rounds, it was looking like it was going to be a snoozer.
I did. Yeah, that's a good point, Lewis. I did find it interesting that Tomac. I thought it was first interesting that all 3 of them were in the second heat. That was wild.
Yeah, it was like a main event, right?
And then secondly, the fact that Tomac passed both of them in that double move that he did was, that's just racecraft genius. He's experienced. That's awesome. But I thought it was surprising to see that happen in the heat, and then almost, like a reverse of Houston where Sexton dominated the heat, but then couldn't get around, Tomac in the main, and then it was kind of, it's you don't really know,
reverse,
don't really know where to go. And also, Lewis, we talked about it last week, and you talked about it on your review pod after Tampa, but I never had the chance to personally say that I really liked your take on how we're in a similar scenario of the Reed, Stewart, Carmichael years. I thought that was great, and I've really had fun thinking about like that and how it's playing out in this season.
Yeah, no one seemed to like that apparently.
I did. I got you.
I was gonna say I saw some people comment that they don't agree, but yeah.
Yeah, but everyone took it far too literally.
Yes.
Everyone thought I was literally saying Chase Sexton is James Stewart, and literally saying Eli Tomac is Ricky Carmichael. Someone replied saying like, "Oh, Tomac never has Carmichael never had off nights like Tomac in Tampa." And it's like, yes, that's not the point. Like, how have you somehow taken that from this?
Yeah.
It's a tough world. It's a tough world.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's really
is.
it's a tough world out there.
Well, us and the Sexton ship, I agree. I agree with you.
Good gosh. Oh boy. X brand has quietly grown into one of the premier goggle choices available, using some of the most grueling conditions by 2022 GNCC XC2 champion Linda Snodgrass, the 2022 GNCC ATV Pro champion Bryson Neal, and Factory Huskies Craig DeLong, as well as Babbitt's Kawasaki's Josh Strang, Grant Baylor. Yeah, and on the Supercross side, Chris Blows is in them, AJE Motorsports, Freddie Norrin, John Short, Ryan Brees, and the Bubba Pauly team all trust X brand. So does Hunter Lawrence. That's the Alpine Star goggles made by the X Brand Lucid. It is the X Brand Lucid. Many other teams trust X Brand. Thanks for being on board. I'll be running X Brand at the GNCC this week or next weekend. Let's see. Ken Roczen. How much time do we have? We don't have much time. Let's get into the Ken Roczen thing for just a second, Lewis. We'll probably have to come back to it. Chain suspension companies this weekend went to Factory Connection with Matt Andruck, I think is how you say his name, and still didn't seem very comfortable.
Well, he seemed very comfortable in the heat.
Well, that is true, but main event was...
He seemed moderately comfortable at the start of the main event, and at the end of the main event, he seemed to not be comfortable at all. So, who knows?
But even in the heat race that he won, like, I didn't feel like he looks like Ken Roczen.
No, I would agree with that, but also Anderson did throw everything at him, and he held on. So, like, that was amazing. Not amazing, but, that was...
Surprising?
That was Ken Roczen. Yeah. Like, if he won that heat and he beat 11th place rider, which actually coincidentally was Ken in the main event, then yeah, you could go, okay, he won the heat, but it didn't look like Ken Roczen, but he beat good guys. So that, to be honest, that probably saved like the mentality after the night, because at least he could look back at that heat and go, okay, we have something. Because if the heat wasn't good, there is nothing positive.
That's a good point. And Scotty, this is like the first heat race win for HEP. They were super excited. It's good for the team.
Yeah.
It shows that it's capable, right? I think we all believe the bike's capable, but I am starting to believe that maybe the bike's not as capable at that level, because Kenny just doesn't look like Kenny even from last year. He just doesn't look like the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, the facts kind of just present themselves. I mean, it's how can you, be that surprised that he's struggling? It's just an outdated thing. I mean, it just needs to be addressed, and I think that's just the bottom line.
Well, I think there's a lot that could be said about the Suzuki. We're going to talk more about Kenny in a minute, but first I want to thank Guts Racing, who supports the HEP team. And Andy Gregg and the Guts Racing crew has been providing the best seats and foam in the industry for years. For 2023, they have added Kawasaki to the complete seat lineup, as well as the color teal to the gripper material options available. Visit gutsracing.com. And tonight, Guts Racing brings us from the Progressive Twisted T HEP Motorsports team, the number 12, Shane McElrath. What's going on, Shane?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on, dude. You are always... I don't think you've ever told me no when I've asked, so I have to say thank you to that, first of all.
It's all a platform. I'll take every opportunity I can get.
Well, man, I want you to touch on how Oakland went for you. It seemed like you were super excited. You had a really good ride. I know the beginning of the season started out a little bit of a struggle, obviously not making the main at A1, and you've been building, but just talk about the build process and how Oakland felt to you.
Yeah. So honestly, I guess to sum it up, it's just kind of a big story of perseverance. We've had a lot of work to do. Well, for me, I got on the bike mid-December, I hadn't ridden since I raced the Australian World Supercross. So I was off the bike because I didn't have a bike to ride. We were trying to figure out what we were doing for AMA Supercross. I was on my way to Italy for the FIM Awards. And when I first spoke to Dustin, that was on December 2nd. And they were like, okay, well, I wasn't really expecting this phone call, but let me see what we can do. And because Kenny was like, dude, the bike's really good. Like, I would call Dustin and see what they have. And so I did. And I ended up flying there. Like, I think it was either December 13th or 15th. So it was like my first day riding. And I got started late. We had a lot of work to do. The Suzuki is definitely different than any other bike I've ridden. I've ridden a Suzuki maybe twice in my life. I've actually spent time on every other brand, but just never a Suzuki. So it definitely was different. Took me a little while to get used to it and just really get back in the flow of riding. And A1 was tough. It was more frustrating than anything because at that point I'd had like 2 weeks on the bike. I showed up to A1 and mentally I wasn't ready to race. Physically I wasn't ready to race. And it was kind of like, just go get going and see what happens. And so kind of in the LCQ, like the track at A1 was super technical, like just with the rain. Obviously you could see people going down everywhere and I was riding super timid as it was. So then by the time the LCQ came, I was just more frustrated that I was in that situation. And then for that to happen on the start, it was just like, you know what, that's kind of what I get for, everything that's happened today has led up to this point. So, I was just more frustrated than anything there because I'm like, you know what, that's kind of a direct result of not being ready. So from then on, it's like, all right, we got work to do. And that's really all we've been doing. This week was really the first week where it's like, I haven't made any changes and just spent time on the bike because we've been making big changes, but necessary changes. And suspension changes have been kind of a thing for the whole team, which has been really good. When I came to this team, a big part of it was to be alongside Ken and Chisholm. Their experience and knowledge is really second to none. So that's kind of part of my deal is to be with those guys where they're at, and they've helped me a lot already. So they've been making a lot of changes for like the better of the team. And Oakland was really, in my opinion, the first weekend I was actually able to race. I've just kind of been riding around at all the other rounds and really, really fighting the bike and fighting the track. And we've really been working hard every single day trying to get in a better spot. And Oakland was a really tough and technical track, but it's like, okay, I can finally ride. So we're definitely not done, but it's kind of a sit in the suck for a little bit and just keep working because I've been playing catch up, and that's something I have to try to keep in perspective too. Like I don't like to make excuses for it, but I'm just a little bit behind everybody else. So,
okay.
Yeah.
There is a hell of a lot to get into with you, but just going back to when you got the call from Dustin, you didn't have an opportunity to race for Rick Ware through the first 8 rounds or whatever, like Joey's doing. Obviously, you delivered for him in World Supercross. Was that a discussion? Was that an opportunity?
Yes, it was. But it was kind of constantly changing. And the deal with Rick was Rick wanted to help us out. But there was really no plan. It was just, hey, we're going to go to anywhere from 4 to 8 races. And at that time, like, we didn't have a bike built. Like, we were going to have to build a bike. And so the timing of it was a little bit tough. And like I told Rick and Dave, like our team manager, I'm like, if I can race all 17 rounds, like that's what I want to try to do. And they voiced to me a couple times, like, dude, if you like this, we're going to a few of the rounds at least, so you have a spot here if you want. And so that's kind of how that whole thing was approached. It was changing like week to week, because obviously Rick has been trying to find some sponsors on a whim, and everybody's kind of already got their budget set. So it was just the situation was, I would like to try and race all the rounds and commit to that versus not really knowing what we were going to be doing. And I mean, last year was, I did that all year, and it's pretty stressful, kind of living weekend to weekend. So that was my plan with that.
It's a ridiculously difficult question to answer, but in hindsight now, do you maybe wonder if you would have been better off sticking with Rick, having a bike that you are more familiar with from the past, and maybe the adaptation, the learning through the first 6 rounds of Supercross wouldn't have been so drastic for you? Like, do you ever look back and think, well, maybe I would have been better off doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought that a couple times already this year. So it's a tough question. But the thing is, I mean, kind of one of the sole reasons I came to this team was to be to kind of lean on Roczen and Chisholm. I mean, that's their experience. Like they've already taught me so much about setup and how to relay what I'm saying to the team and how to understand what I'm saying, so that somebody else can kind of interpret that. And I mean, for me, I mean, there are things that maybe could have went better. Maybe I'd be getting better results earlier in the year. I'm not really sure, but I mean, I'm really excited about the work that we've already done, and getting to know Chisholm and Ken more and the team. Like, I've known the HEP guys for a while, and they've always been nice to me. I've tested their bike in the past, before they really had everything that they have now. And so they've definitely come a long way. And now that they have the level of expertise that they have, especially with the guys on there, and Larry Brooks is the team manager, it's like there's so much good to learn. And for me to further develop and extend my career, that's kind of one of those that's one of those areas where it's beyond just what's happening on the track, on the races at the weekends. And yeah, I mean, we definitely took a chance on coming here, and especially on a whim. It's like, okay, well, we're going to try to go race all of Supercross. And like, we had a good World Supercross series. And then it's like, we're still in contract with Rick, and this team, it just happened to work to where we could be in 2 contracts together. And so, I mean, it's definitely a unique situation, but I'm thankful for it, because that's what I told Rick early on. It's like, look, I want to do the whole series because it can better us for World Supercross. And there's still a lot that I have to learn about the 450, and it's going to keep me racing all throughout the year until we get to World Supercross. And so for me, it was purely an experience thing and a learning thing. And yeah, I want to get better results, and I'm working towards that. But the stuff that I've had to learn has been a big chunk of stuff that I don't know if I would have learned it any other way. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any regrets, because I feel like where we're at is where God can use us, and where he's led us. So that's where I have to just find peace in that.
Yeah, Shane, this is Scotty. So I think I want to preface this by saying that I've always been a fan of what HEP has done, and it shows the fact that they got Kenny and guys like you and Chisholm. You know, it shows a lot about what they have been capable of doing, and I think it shows how well they work together. Also, from the Suzuki side of things, do you think that this is kind of going to be one of those seasons that's maybe somewhat of like like a breaking point for them, especially now that there's World Supercross and there's more opportunities? Do you foresee or how much do you foresee an overhaul on the bike from Suzuki's standpoint?
From the OEM side.
From the OEM side, just from what you've kind of the vibes you've gotten from what you've seen from them so far this season.
I think that's what we all hope for, because those guys, I mean, they love racing, and that's why they do this, and that's why they've done this since they started. Dustin used to race, and now it's like each year they're continuing to grow and they're continuing to gain experience, and each year they're getting more and more guys on the team, like from the rider and personnel standpoint, that it's like they've been there and they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, and they know what they're looking for. And I think in a perfect world, yes, it's like, okay, Suzuki's going to step up and revamp. And it's like, dude, this is, I mean, I don't necessarily say it about myself, but it's like, this is their best shot that they have right now to kind of get back into it. And they're doing some stuff for the team, but it's like the team, like HEP, they want to do it. They want to make a statement. They want to, and I mean, I guess you could say that the Suzuki is kind of the underdog on the track, and it's there's probably not many people that would disagree with you, but like the engine, the bike, everything is built so well that now it's after spending time on the bike, I understand why there hasn't been many updates to it, because it's a super solid bike all the way around.
Right.
And a lot of kind of modern, well, I don't necessarily say modern, but a lot of the setup of the suspension and the chassis is not exactly the same as kind of every other manufacturer right now. And so that's kind of what we've had a hard time with, is it's a different bike in its own way, and we've had to do things a little bit differently to get it to work good. And we're continuing to learn that and continuing to figure that out. But it's I mean, it's a new project for a lot of people, and we all want to do good. We all want to represent the team and Suzuki well. And I would say we're just now kind of starting to scratch the surface of, okay, we're really getting some stuff to build on. And that's kind of the exciting part about it, is the journey has been tough, but it's like, dude, this is pretty crazy what we're figuring out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lewis.
Speaking, this just came to me, so sorry for interrupting, Jamie. Speaking about the journey and how it's like exciting for you to figure it out, are you not maybe questioning that, okay, you're going to put in all of this work for the next 3 months and you're going to be a massive part of this, and then you're going to go back to Rick Ware and you're not going to maybe be able to reap all of the benefits of this work?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. And that's something for me. It's like, I mean, it's a mutual contract. Like I'm here to represent the team the best that I can, and they're doing their best to give me everything that I need to represent them. And so that was honestly like when we were in the UK at like Saturday night after the race, like Rick was there in person, and we were just talking like right before we were going to leave the race, and he was like, hey, I want to help you out for Supercross. He's like, I don't know what that looks like yet, but I want to help you out. And at that point it was just Rick was just like, dude, let's do this. And obviously we didn't have much time to work with, but that was what I told him, is like, he was kind of asking like, why do you want to do the AMA Supercross? And like, especially if it's 17 rounds, like it's a lot of work. And that was what I told him, is like, look, you paid me to go out and win. And when I committed to this, I don't take that lightly. And so, yes, the AMA Supercross is not really what I'm contracted to do for you, but that's going to help me be like better represent you in World Supercross. And so that's kind of been my plan. And it's like HEP gave me that opportunity to grow and to learn. And I mean, Ken and Chisholm and whoever else is on the team, like they're there and they're going to continue to learn and get better. And that's just kind of how it goes. But they've taught me a lot also. And that's where it's like, I'm just super excited about where we're at because of what I've been able to do to help the team and to work with them and to get to know them, but to also know what they've taught me for the long run in my career. That's really, it's a happy trade-off there.
That's interesting. I have two Suzuki questions for you based off some things you said. One, you said it's different than pretty much any bike you've ever rode, and I'd like to try to understand how it's different. But you also mentioned, if I'm understanding right, you know, it's kind of saying that the technology is a little different on the Suzuki than the other bikes. So I wonder, like, what does that feel like? So Kenny is clearly, and at least in my eyes, Kenny's not the same Kenny we've seen. He is searching for something. He's changing suspension companies. That seems to be the biggest issue. What does this bike feel differently than, I mean, he was on the Suzuki, you know, not that, you know, a number of years ago, but what is so different about it that feels different at your level? Because I guarantee you, I wouldn't think it felt that different at my ability.
Yeah. And that's what's tough is because, like, watching the bike, like from a rider's perspective, you can watch the bike and it's like, okay, it looks front end heavy and it looks tall in the rear, but how is it really riding like that? And so for me, it's like Kenny and Chisholm are both on a standard chassis, like stock subframe, stock linkage, everything. For me, I'm on a stock chassis, except I'm running a 10 mil cut subframe and I run just taller bars. And for me, that opens up the cockpit a little bit more. That's just a personal preference. And for me, that's helped lower the rear a little bit. Not necessarily visually, but it just, like, the rear seems really aggressive on the Suzuki. And then it was kind of like that's kind of what I mean with the current setups on other manufacturers. It's almost like the Suzuki. I mean, like, just kind of comparing it to other bikes, like some guys like their rear tall and like their front low, and Kenny has even voiced that he likes his bike like that. Even when he was on his Honda, he's like, that's how I like my bike. But his bike didn't look like that. But he's like, yeah, I like my rear tall and my front a little bit lower just for the corners. And so a lot of that is done setup wise, like suspension. Well, getting on the Suzuki, it's almost like this chassis is designed that way from, like, the factory. So kind of what we've been challenged to get, I guess, leveled out is we almost have to build it opposite of how everybody else builds their stuff to turn. But we've had to build it to, like, turn less almost, because it'll literally turn on its own. And so it's like, okay, we need to make it go through the whoops. We need to make it hold up in the rhythms really well. And we've been really kind of going, like, we've honestly been engineering, like, how do we make this work in a unconventional way? And I mean, we have the guys to kind of think about that. Okay, we can do this, we can do that, we can get these parts made. And we've been doing that. And it's like, okay, we're getting somewhere now. And yeah, so that's kind of everything in a nutshell. Is like the bike turns really well. And that's what we've been trying to level out, making everything else work well. And I mean, I haven't gotten the bike to not turn yet. So okay. I think we're still going. in that direction, but I don't think it needs any help there.
Okay. Thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Yep.
You're probably sick of talking about the Suzuki, so I'll change the subject for.
Bring it
I'll
on.
change the subject for a little while. Kind of a difficult question again. I'm getting a reputation here, but obviously your 250 career was incredible. Everyone knows that. You're the 250 world champion right now, so we all know how good you are. Do you sometimes feel like you're underrated? Because obviously since you've gone to the 450 class, it has been tough. Injuries, teams shutting down, not being able to get a ride until the last minute with this year. So do you feel like in a short space of time, people have forgotten about your potential? We all remember the Orlando heat race. Yeah, do you feel maybe like you haven't been given the respect you deserve?
Yeah, I would say so. But at the same time, like, that's okay, because I mean, ultimately in this sport, you're only as good as your last race, and my last bunch of races have not been that good. And I mean, that's what's hard, is like I'm a little bit off. Well, the 450, I've had trouble knowing how to set the bike up. And so it's like, okay, I went from Star Yamaha, which is, in my opinion, the best team, to Moto Concepts, which they have a great team. It's a small effort, but they have a great bike, a great team. They have a lot of wisdom there. And it's like, okay, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've ridden a 450 a lot, but never on Supercross, and I don't know what I'm doing. And so I had injuries, and ultimately did 3 races on that. And then it was another long bit off. Then went to Rocky Mountain, and we had good equipment there, but it was like, okay, I still don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to set the bike up kind of how I think, but I also don't really know what I'm doing. And then that team fell through. And then at Husky, it was like I was there for 2 months, and it's just been a lot of jumping around, and I haven't really got a place to grow and to really learn the guys I'm working around, and to get to kind of see and put everything together. And I mean, now it's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, is like I'm here for, like, or at HEP for the Supercross season. And it's like, we've spent a lot of time together already, just getting to know the team, getting to know each other, and leaning on Chisholm and Roczen, and me jumping on their bikes. Like, dude, will you ride my bike and tell me if what I'm saying is correct? Tell me if what I'm feeling is correct. And like, I don't know if I know what I'm talking about. And so that's been a huge part of just my career development. And so to kind of get back to your question, it's like I'm still on the way up. I'm just a little bit behind, and I'm in the shadows right now. And for me, it's perfectly fine, because it's not like I'm out there riding at the best I've ever ridden and I'm getting 16th. It's like, dude, I still have a lot of room to grow, and in time that'll come. And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, the reason for that question is I feel like people were celebrating your 16th for the weekend, and I was looking at it thinking, well, this is Shane McElrath. We know how good he is. He's so much better than this, or can be.
Yeah.
And on that note, what about you personally? Like, do you look back at your time in 450 so far, and are you putting more pressure on yourself with each year that passes? Are you looking back on the last 2-3 years and beating your head against the wall? I think you've had 4 top 10s in 450 Supercross, and again, we know you are capable of so much more.
Yeah. It's I would say it's definitely taught me a lot, and that's the thing with the 450 classes. It's a different mindset. Like, and that's what's really tough about it, is the 250 class. Like, especially when the coasts are split up, it's like, dude, I'm gonna work, and like you've got normally 3 to 4 guys that you're gonna be racing against, and a bad night where you're off a little bit, okay, you get a 5th place and the other guys are, I don't know, 10 to 12 seconds ahead of you, like maybe the winner or something, and you had an off night, and you can just kind of alternate doing that, and it's like, okay, everybody's like pretty similar. But in the 450 class, it's like, dude, almost everybody out there is a past champion, and there's so many guys out there right now that have won races in the 450 class. And so for me, being a little bit off translates to a lot off. And so that's where, like, this weekend was really the first time I showed up to race. Like, we made some really big changes last week, and I even started out the day on a new set of forks after what we had learned. But it was like, and even our suspension guy, Matt, he's like, last week, he's like, you don't want to try riding this new fork setup before the race? I'm like, no, I trust you, because I know the steps we've taken to get here, and I know kind of what we need moving forward, and that's what we're doing. So it's like, it should be pretty close, and that it was exactly that. So it's like my free practice, my time qualifying, it's like, I think I was 12th, which is decent for me in qualifying. I've never been that good of a qualifier, but I wasn't 6 seconds off the pace this weekend. It's like, okay, I'm 3 seconds. Like, we cut it in half. And then the heat race, my start was bad, and I left a lot out there on the heat race. But then the main, it was like kind of being in that battle for a little bit. I mean, that's the first time I've been in that situation in like over a year probably. So I definitely, that was kind of a lot to take in, but it was good that, okay, I'm somewhat running the pace. That was a win. And it, obviously I fell back to 16th, and that's disappointing, but there were so many small victories from that it's like, okay, I know we came a long way, but we can start building our racecraft now and start really kind of taking in, okay, who is this guy? How does this guy race? Like, really not so much focusing on, okay, I'm barely doing the jumps, I'm beating myself up out there, and now I can actually focus on racing the competition. So that's kind of where, this weekend it was another 16th, but it was like the first 10 to 12 minutes of the main was like, that's really all I'm thinking about at this point.
Yeah, we just talked to Pierce, and we always talk weekly about how mental this is. So the fact that you're finding those positives that you need to have to make improvements, that's good that you're seeing that, and you're, okay, this is what I have to improve on, but I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Shane, I wanted to ask you about the tracks so far. It seemed like, from a fan's perspective, I liked Oakland the most, and you also mentioned that was the first time that you really could even feel like you were racing, so you may be a little biased towards that. But so far, what have you thought about the crew and the way they've been making the tracks, and what's been your favorite so far? Dude,
they've been tough. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've heard some people talk about them, but dude, it's like, it's tough. And for me, like, a lot of the races early in the year, my suspension was so soft that it was like I was just having trouble doing the obstacles. So to go to Oakland's normally a little bit tame because of how it breaks down. Like, that's kind of almost a given when you go to Oakland. But then this year it was built up like peaky, and dude, my suspension felt pretty good. Like, I was able to do the obstacles somewhat effortlessly. It's like, okay, like, this is pretty good. But that track, we had the 2 sets of whoops, the Dragon's Back. Like, it was such a busy track, but it was technical. And for me, I liked it the most because it was a slower pace. Like, it's not just wide open, super high intensity and kind of like living on the edge a little bit. Like, you have to be methodical, even lap to lap. And so for me, and kind of where I'm at right now with the bike and the team, it's like, it was a good race for me because it's like, okay, it brought the speeds down a little bit, and the track was super busy. So there wasn't really a fast section to it. And, but the other tracks, like, that's kind of where the 450 class has been tough for me to learn, is because there's never a time I go out on the racetrack and it's in good condition. Like, the tracks are just beat up every time the 450s are on the track. And that's been a big adjustment, because there's nothing, like, for me struggling with bike setup, I can't find anywhere to set the bike up that's similar to that.
Right.
And that's what's been tough, is like the races we've been learning, but then we go back to the practice track, and now I'm down here in Florida riding at the Sandbox, and this is like the best place and the closest place I've found to the racetrack, like, since I've been on the Suzuki. And there's so much that goes into it that you don't really understand until you're kind of going through some of those things. And the tracks this year have just been super technical. They've been getting really beat up, super rutted. I feel like the whoops, they've almost been so big, even at Oakland. Like, we never really had a dedicated jump line. And that's the first time I've ever been to Oakland and not had that. So I mean, we keep thinking like, oh, maybe this weekend the track will be a little bit more mellow, but it's like, I think this is it.
I wonder, though, with the West Coast rounds, because there's so much rain and moisture that the dirt's just breaking down. Like, when you get to Arlington, we've had a lot of rain here too. So, yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Lewis, you want to wrap this thing up? You got one more?
Yeah, a little easier question this time. If I heard right, in one of your answers, you said that you tested with HEP another year about potentially getting a ride. When was that, and why didn't you sign in that year?
That was at the end of 2020. So my star year, that was the COVID year. Everything went late. At the time, I think we had only spoke to Moto Concepts, but their deal was Supercross only. And I tested the HEP bike, and then I went and tested the JGR bike. And at the time, HEP, they were still like kind of doing everything in-house on their own. And then there was JGR, who at the time they were waiting on their Suzuki deal to get finished. And I actually didn't ride the Moto Concepts bike until last. And the Moto Concepts bike was really good. And that was really the reason why I didn't want to do Supercross only. But when I rode that bike, I'm like, dude, HEP were still building and on their way up. JGR was waiting on their Suzuki deal, and we kind of got to the point where we had to make a decision. And like with Moto Concepts, and JGR still hadn't heard anything, so we were like, dude, we kind of got to go with the best equipment right now that we can get, and that's why we went to Moto Concepts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Shane, you've been on here long enough. We took a lot of your time, and I know it's late on the East Coast, and thank you for always telling me yes and agreeing to do the show.
Yeah.
So we'll see you in Arlington this weekend, man. Looking forward to it. And
sounds good.
Yeah,
thank you guys. Thanks for the time.
You got it, Shane. Take care, buddy.
Talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks again to Shane McElrath from the Progressive Twisted Tea HEP Motorsports Suzuki team. He was brought to you tonight by Guts Racing. And don't forget, for 23, there are e-bike options. They have complete seats for Teleria and Super 73 and covers for the Segway and Sur-Ron. And they also have options for the Honda, KTM, and Husqvarna electric bikes, gutsracing.com. Lewis, we had talked a little while ago about Daytona coming up in a couple weeks. And I feel like at Daytona, I want the best triple clamps I could have. I want my bike to handle properly. And for me, that means Luxon. Because when it comes to triple clamp, suspension, and chassis parts, there's no comparison. Luxon MX makes the best parts you can buy. Luxon's advanced engineering background and techniques allow them to develop products that are unlike the rest, lighter and stronger with optimized stiffness to enhance your riding comfort and precision. Visit Luxon.com and use that promo code MotoXPod, all one word, to save. Got to get some of those on the bikes. Before we proceed, I know if you're watching on YouTube, I think there's been some comments because myself and Scotty, we're on our phones, and we don't have a messaging system yet in studio. So communicating with Lewis, communicating with Scotty, so we can say, hey, do you have a question? Where do we want to kind of take the conversation? That's what we're doing. So we are paying attention, I promise. Just want to let you guys know. I know it kind of looks like we're almost not interested, but I promise you that is not the case. Lewis. Yeah, go ahead.
Was that too much, that interview?
No, I don't think so. I don't think, no, I think those were really good questions.
I have many more.
Yeah, you said, but we had him on for over 30 minutes, so.
Yeah, I know. I need to call him. I've got like 20 more questions. But as I say, and that, again, theme of tonight is fascinating because, like, 2020, so less than 3 years ago? Yeah, just shy of 3 years ago, McElrath battled with Chase Sexton for the East title and lost by 9 points.
Yeah.
Fast forward less than 3 years, look where Chase Sexton is and look where Shane McElrath is. We're talking about a 16th place as a success. Like, incredible how quickly things can change and the path you can go down. Like, it must be tough because do you remember Shane McElrath as a guy who was beating Chase Sexton on occasion?
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Oh, okay. You were meant to go. No, I completely forgot.
No, I would never forget that. But the point, it shows how that it's almost like when you go from college or high school football or sports to college to pros, the level, everybody's so much better. And when you're in the 250 class, the competition is not quite as steep there's not quite as many guys at that level. And then you move up and you also have to deal with the bigger bike, the heavier bike, the track's breaking down more, all those things. And then just Shane not having, like you said, having some injuries, not always having a secure ride from year to year. Those things have to be taken into the thought process of what he's been dealing with.
It's just, I've said it a few times on other podcasts and whatever. I feel like right now, Shane is walking a career tightrope. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at. I was trying to see if he was going to say that he's basically concerned about his future. And probably the next question I would have asked is he ready to be a World Supercross only rider? Did you like the way I threw in that he's a 250 world champion?
I did. I did like that.
I said that as a joke, and he seemed to lap it up. I said that as
yeah, no, he liked it. You should send me the rest of your questions if you, or I can get you his number and you could just do it. But I could do it. I could ask him more questions at Arlington if you'd like, or we could do
I think it's got to be away from a race,
yeah.
But is he one of those guys where I don't care about Oakland. I don't care about his results this year. Who cares? That means nothing to me. I want to know, where's his head at? Why this? Why that? Why that? Because he didn't really say it as much as I thought, but he must be beating his head against the wall and being like, how has it gotten to this point? How have I ended up here?
I kind of wanted to ask him a question similar, and then you asked him if he had thought about should he have stayed with Rick Ware. So I kind of backed off my question, but I had a similar question. Yes, he had. Yeah, look, all these guys are human. At the end of the night, they sit at home and go, "Ooh, what happened? Or why'd this happen?" The confidence might not be so strong when they're at the house, and they're laying in bed at night trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, and to your point, kudos to him for actually saying that he has fought, but maybe he would have been better off staying with Rick Webb.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask that question. I almost didn't because I was like, "There's no way he'll just say, no, I'm really happy with where I am, and this is amazing." I kind of asked that as a shot in the dark, hoping he would be honest, and
he was. He's a good interview. I feel like he's always pretty honest. He always has a lot to say.
Well, that's the first time I've ever spoken to him, so I'm sure I've made an impression.
I'll find out. What did you think about it, Scotty?
I mentioned this to you when I was getting ready for the show today, and it's one of the things that's unfortunate about if you're not winning or if you're not top five or whatever that benchmark is, that it's everything's like a failure and it's like a negative thing, and
sure. Especially in this sport.
Yeah, especially this sport. And so, making these questions for Shane and for Pierce, it was hard to not make them like, well, what's wrong with the bike, or why are you crashing? It's hard to not make them negative, and I want to shine the positivity on these guys because they're such talents. Like Lewis just said, 3 years ago, this guy was battling for a guy that's now battling for the championship in the 450 class, and he's such a good guy, and he answered his questions honestly, and he gave you in depth, and somebody in that position that he's in, where like he's getting 16th place, they're not likely to be that open and that in depth about these kind of things. And the fact that he's such a good guy, and I just want to see him succeed. And I just wish everybody could just be. I wish everything was just
positive.
I just wish it was more like that. And it's just the way the sport is, just the way the world is.
Yeah, they all have higher expectations, so that's part of what we have to do. I got some negativity to talk about, boys.
Great.
But first, we're going to lead into the negativity with a positivity. And the positivity is FXR, one of my favorite companies, is designed by racers for racers with industry-leading fit, finish, and performance. Progression is the name of the game with every new piece created. At FXR, we push our brand to the next level to provide you with the best product possible. Visit fxrracing.com to see all the numerous gear lines and colorways, and as well as their snow items, their snow lines. Go to your local dealership, ask for FXR. My negativity, I'm really frustrated with Justin Barcia at this point. I wasn't real thrilled with the way our interview went that I had with him on press day at Houston. It put a bad taste in my mouth, and the guy has the reputation we know, right, Scotty? This weekend, in the main event, he takes Colt Nichols really wide, sends him off the track. Isn't necessary. He's coming from the back. He's going to probably pass Colt. He does the same thing to AC. And Lewis, come on, you just don't do that to AC. AC's, you got to be nice to AC. None of that's really the point. I hate the way he fucking races. I am fed up, dude. I am so angry. I was losing my temper sitting on the couch and thinking about it today. And I was like, contemplating, like, okay, if I was in a race with this guy, I think at some point I would not care about my contract. I would go up to the dude and be like, you touch me again, I will fucking kill you. I am tired of it. I'm just so sick of the way he races, Lewis. I cannot take it anymore. And then Jason Anderson gets a freaking probation because he takes down Justin. Who cares? That's it.
First of all, the first day I worked with you, one of the first things you said to me was that you couldn't bring yourself to say negative things about riders, and you knew it was your weakness, and that was just 0 to 100.
I'm so fed up. That was the line.
Wait, hold on. I need to clear my name because at this point I'm associated with a crime just by being on here with you. I disagree. Ish.
Okay.
Like, yeah, when he knocked AC down, I rolled my eyes because I was like, just leave AC alone. But that was more of a we want AC to progress rather than see him lying on the dirt. To be honest, and it's a weird opinion to have, but I'm kind of like indifferent to it. I don't love it. I'm not like, that was awesome, but I'm also like, rubbing's racing, but I contradict myself because I really didn't like what Anderson did to Barcia in Tampa. But, so I contradict myself.
So
I'm a loser.
I 100% agree with you. Rubbing is racing. I have no problems normally with block passes and those kind of things. It's just time and time again, Justin takes people down. And sometimes it's necessary. It is not always necessary. I don't know. I'm beyond frustrated. I don't even know how to contemplate words right now or to speak what I'm feeling. Scotty, I'm sure you have thoughts.
My only thing what's funny to it that what Barcia does is like he's like, oh what did I do? Like
normally, yeah.
It's just like he's like, oh, what are you talking about? That was just racing, and it's just I don't know. It's just funny. I mean, he's always been that way. His name's Bam Bam for a reason. I mean, he's gotten booed before. He's gotten fined before. He's gotten on probation before. So I mean, it kind of just is what it is. I personally think that a lot of the drama he's been in this year was more of Anderson instigating that than, and it's just It's like, oh yeah, of course Barcia has some drama with their rider, but I think Anderson initiated a lot of that this particular season.
I agree. I talked to Jason Anderson about those type of things also at Houston. He did not get mad at me for asking those questions like Justin Barcia did, but it's just, again, in a vacuum, the Colt pass, the AC pass, not that bad. It's not like he just straight up T-boned him, but it's just every freaking time the camera's on Justin, it seems like they're even talking about it. They're hyping it. Oh no, he's getting close to Jason. What's going to happen? Because we all know he has a tendency to put guys on the ground. If you're faster, try to make the pass without blowing the dude off the track. Just try. And then maybe if you can't get it done, okay, get aggressive. But it's like, it's just aggressive all the time. That's just how he races. And I don't know. Are you back, Lewis?
I'm sorry about. I don't know what happened.
You're good.
There.
Yeah, cut out for a second. You're good.
I think to clarify what I said, I think the reason I don't have that much of an issue with what Barcia did in Oakland was that I consider that a love tap, and a love tap is fine because I consider a love tap much more acceptable than a takeout. I kind of have them as different categories in my mind, like Villapoto on Alessi at Bubbs Creek in 2006, love tap.
Yeah.
Like that's love tap territory in my mind.
Okay, so I have a question for both of y'all. So about this. So you take both instances where McAdoo held up Pierce, and then you take the Barcia Cianciarulo incident. Without names attached to either one of those incidents, the bikes are you're colorblind. You see black and white. Which one was worse?
Honestly, they're all about the same. I don't think any of them were super bad in general. I think McAdoo could have made the pass a little cleaner because Pierce passed him clean. But still, it was a smart move. He brake checked him, and Pierce went down. That was a good racing move. Again, the Barcia passes weren't that aggressive. He took the guys wide. Colt ran out of room and was going to hit a tough block. And I think it was basically the same thing with AC. Not horrible moves. It's just the repetitiveness of his history that drives me insane at this point. It was enough. Honestly, when I saw AC, AC is such a good dude. We're just, like Lewis said, we want him to get back to where he was. He's working hard. He's just a nice guy out there doing his laps. And here comes Barcia. Just, nope, sorry, man, I'm going to put you on the ground. Make you. It was a line.
I get that, but that's the point. Is if you can't really say that move was that bad.
I'm not judging it in a vacuum. I am judging it over his entire career, and I'm just fed up.
Yeah,
fed up.
Well.
All right, let's move on. 250s, Lewis. Jet wins. McAdoo and RJ. Honestly, once we really kind of get a breakdown of what they're recovering from their A2, pretty impressive rides, extremely impressive rides. But Jet is just head and shoulders above everybody else. What I want to ask you, though, is when RJ crashes, do you go, oh, God, not again? Or do we go, well, he's riding hurt. Let's just, it's just part of the deal right now.
I don't even go, oh no, what again? Because it's like, my brain doesn't even register it as an event now because it's so normality that I kind of just look straight through it. It's kind of the same way that the opening ceremony fireworks don't really register with me because it's just like, well, that happens every week. Yeah, I was worried you were going to ask me about 250s because that was one heck of a race, wasn't it? A lot happened there. Jet is, in fact, a really good rider, it turns out.
He's not bad.
No, that's about the extent of my analysis on the 250 car. But honestly, we need to put these coasts together.
Yeah.
Because that West, the West is limping to the finish, and the East is better. The East is deeper, and there's a bit more variety in East. West, we've had the same podium in the same formation 3 out of 4 rounds. But yeah, honestly, the West main event may have been the most boring race I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, other than Pierce catching up, that was the excitement for the moment. Yeah. But Scotty, what does it say that these two guys, RJ and Cameron McAdoo, with a hematoma on his left, not Chase Sexton, Darkside, you idiot. But what does it say that those two guys, though, are battling up front? They look really good in their heat races with such injuries. And that, other than kind of Pierce, there really wasn't anybody else up there.
Yeah, the interesting question to me is how much racecraft is Jet using? Because at the very beginning of that race, the first 5 minutes, he looked a tad off, and RJ gapped him. McAdoo was staying with him, and Pierce was catching him, and I was like, oh, this could be the breakthrough race that we're looking for from all these guys. And then all of a sudden, RJ goes down, like it doesn't even face Lewis anymore. RJ goes down, and then next thing you know, he's 15 seconds ahead, and you're like, was he just waiting for, he knows McAdoo's hurt, he knows RJ's prone to crashing and probably nursing injury as well. Was he just chilling and waiting for that to happen, like inevitably? So. And like, is he just that smart? I mean, it's just, that's like, it didn't look like he'd be 15 seconds ahead the first 5 minutes of the race.
I don't know that he was necessarily going, okay, I'm going to wait for RJ to crash.
Obviously,
but he's definitely, I think he absolutely has that confidence that Lewis talked about earlier, where he knows he's the guy. And at almost any time he could just, I'm taking it, I'm gone. What do you think, Lewis? Am I I think I'm dead on, but I always am.
Yeah, I think you are dead on, because like I say, I don't think there's much I don't think there is much. There aren't different ways to view this 250 class.
Sure.
We know each guy. We know their strengths. We know their weaknesses. We know how they play things. We know how they do things. Yeah, I do agree with you, my friend.
Okay.
I do agree with you, my friend.
Well, let's move on then. Did you think, first of all, do you know what happened to Matt Moss in the main event? Because I have not heard. I expected more.
Yeah, he crashed and jammed his thumb.
Okay.
I think his thumb.
Okay, so, yeah, hopefully once we get back to East Coast or West Coast, maybe we'll see a little more out of him. We also had Styles Robertson go out in the whoops, I think, in qualifying, right, Lewis? He injured his
second set of whoops.
And then, of course, Filthy Phil broke his wrist or dislocated his wrist. Super bummed for both those guys. I don't know the extent of Styles' injury yet, but Phil's going to be out for a while. Probably going to surgery, I think. Styles
just banged himself up.
Okay,
he hit his head a tiny bit, so he will be. If there was a West round this weekend, then I think he would be racing them. It wouldn't even be a question.
Good to know.
Yeah, Phil dislocated his wrist, so that will be a long-term month.
Yeah,
that'll be months. So.
Founded in 1853, Motul is a 170-year-old company that is present in over 160 countries globally, offering exclusive technologies in their. Oh, I thought you were trying to get my attention. Technologies in their patented Ester Core technology for your machine. Motul's experts have developed a wide range of dedicated products for the specific requirements of each power sports vehicle. So go check out the Motul 300V. For decades, Motul has developed high-performance synthetic ester-based lubricants. Motul has created a perfect synergy. I'm struggling. This most advanced Ester Core technology allows the maximum power output of the engine without compromising reliability and wear. Motul 300. I want to talk about Max Vohland. Max came out in his heat race. RJ was clearly better, but Maximus showed some aggression. He pulled that quad out of nowhere after the finish. Tried to have some fight in him. I was very impressed. I have been expecting more out of Maximus for this season in general, more than we're really getting. Didn't really do what I thought he would. I think 7th overall in the main event, Lewis. But you had a question, Scotty, so I'll go to you first.
Yeah, my question was, are we hitting the panic button on Vohland yet?
I'll let you go first, Lewis.
No, not at all, because this year has been better than the results show. Even after San Diego, when he didn't qualify, I think I was on this show saying, I don't care. It's not that big a deal. Mm-hmm. Everyone just needs to focus on how good the riding was at Anaheim 1 and in those heat race and LCQ. And similar, okay, there hasn't been an incredible result. There hasn't been a breakthrough result. There hasn't been anything to really write home about. But there have, as you mentioned, Jamie, been little flashes, little signs of potential, little positives, but I think are something to consider for the future. Are they enough to earn him a new KTM contract? Probably not. But they're definitely enough to stop us from writing him off.
Yeah.
Put it this way. Do I ever think he's going to win a title? No. But do I have expectations of him becoming a 3rd, 4th, 5th guy? Yes.
I'm definitely not pushing the panic button. I know this season his dad Talon, they have a game plan every year. And it's basically this year, consistency, let's get some good finishes. But when I see the aggression in the heat race, Scotty, that he had, and he is putting up a fight to race with RJ, and RJ gaps him pretty easily, I'm a little disappointed. I thought he should at least be able to run with him and hang with him, maybe even get back in there and go after him again, and he just couldn't.
Well, and the reason I kind of thought of this question is because, you know, even if he did get gapped by RJ a little bit in the heat, I thought, like you said, the aggression was there and there were signs of improvement. And it just, you know, watching the main, it just seemed like he just fell off so hard. And, you know, he just kept, you know, he kind of got passed by a pretty good handful of guys. And to Lewis's point, though, like, yeah, if you say he's never going to win a title, but when he came out of the amateurs, I mean, I think the kind of expectation of him was to win a title. So
like eventually.
Not rookie season, obviously, but I think the goal
from who?
Just watching him and seeing how he competed again in the amateurs. I don't think he was ever not one of the guys, and to see him to say that he's never going to win a championship, most likely, I think that's almost hitting the panic button in my opinion.
Response?
Yeah, when he came out of amateurs, I'm sure there was a dream of him becoming a champion one day in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, or whatever. I don't think he ever had the height of the next big thing, or like Kitchen, for instance. I feel like Kitchen entered with a lot more height in comparison to Vohland, and there are a lot of other examples. I think that if he can become a consistent podium guy, I don't think that anyone at KTM or anyone will look at that and go, "Oh, that Maximus kid didn't work out as we expected." Like, I don't think the expectations have ever been that high. Obviously, he got hired for a reason, and everyone hopes that a title will be delivered at some point. But I don't think anyone was like, "This guy is a shoo-in." I mean, Faulkner hasn't even got a title yet.
Right.
Yeah. He was a amateur phenom who was expected to win right out of the gate.
Yep. Yeah, he came in so early, and I still wonder if maybe that was a mistake. And Talon, they told me, like, they didn't want to go pro when they did, but basically the option was take this 3-year deal, or you may not have a deal and you have to go search somewhere else. So they did what they felt was best, and then he's just injury-filled couple seasons, and he's just behind the 8 ball. I do think he has the ability to win races. I think a championships would be a little bit of luck would have to fall in, I think, especially with the guys coming up, Hayden and Chance Hymas, and there's just so much talent. It's going to be very difficult. But I wanted to see a little more out of Max, but at the same time, I think he is doing what they said. Let's stay consistent. Let's get through the season without injury, and he is doing that so far.
From what I know, silly season wise, I wouldn't expect him to be at KTM next year.
Yeah,
but I would expect him to be in the Austrian family still.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's I've heard similar. We're going to move on. I got 2 more topics I want to get on. We're going to get to, we have one more topic, and then we're going to do our 60 picks for Arlington. Lewis, your wheelhouse. We just had the Italian GP, or is what it was, right?
Not a GP.
Okay.
National Championship.
Your guy, your buddy Sewer, wins our Geyser big scary crash, femur, I believe.
Yeah, broke his femur.
That bums me out for the championship that's about to kick off here soon. But what did you take away from that race? I know Hurlings wasn't there. You said in the review show that he's off just being fast like he does.
Yeah, Hurlings is racing this weekend, though, in
good.
Another pre-season race. So this weekend is Hurlings' season debut. Obviously a bummer that guys have got hurt. For some reason, I'm getting many texts saying that he is going to try and come back for the GP that is at the same track, which is in 6 weeks' time, 7 weeks' time, and there's no way. There is no way. There
Not with the femur.
Absolutely no. There is no way. Like, and also that is round 4, so at that point the title hopes are gone. So there is literally no point. Like, everyone who's texting me that, I just reply with no.
But
no.
Doesn't that sound kind of like a Geyser thing to do, though?
No, that's more the Hurling thing.
Okay.
Hurling's broke his femur and raced like the next week or whatever it was.
That doesn't register as human.
Duct tape fixes everything, man.
Okay.
You should actually, obviously, as we know, you haven't watched many GPs. Watching the GP that Hurling's raced with a broken femur is that moto is a good one to watch because you can see in his style him like riding with a broken femur.
Yeah.
It's something you would never see again in your lifetime. But no, the good news is that Sua has stepped up and seems to be a guy. Well, he was always a guy, but more of a guy now. So I have high expectations for him. And then obviously you've got Febvre. He's going to be a guy. Prado is racing this weekend as well for the first time in somewhere different for Hurling. So this will be his first shakedown of pre-season. GP start in 2.5 weeks. So as a new fan, catch the fever.
Yeah, I am going to get my TV package paid for or whatever so I can watch.
You want me to try and get you a free one? Friends help friends.
There's only one answer to that, of course.
Friends help, because I've got my free one already, so it's only right that I give my friends his.
That would be very nice. Scotty, you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs of the MXGP. I watch them on the replays on CBS Sports as I have that, and I record them. And it's just kind of, when I saw that, at first I saw the wreck of Geisler, and I was like, that was a crazy wreck. And then I realized it was him, and I was like, oh no. I was like, It just seems like the last couple of years we've been waiting for this penultimate Hurling's Geisler.
Geyser.
I'm from Geyser.
Geyser.
Okay, yeah. I'm from Texas. I'm sorry.
Like a geyser, at Yellowstone, the geyser.
The Geyser. Tim, you knew who I was talking about. Anyways, the guy who got hurt is now not going to be in
bike.
Yeah, he's not going to be in the championship with Hurlings, and it's just like another miss.
Yeah.
We only have so many opportunities for this to happen again, and it's such a long season that if they're not there at the beginning, that the whole thing's kind of wasted, and it's just disappointing.
Yeah, but Lewis, you obviously being our go-to for MXGP, some of the talent that's coming up and that's there now, Febvre, Sewer, and Prado, all are guys that are going to be in a battle and make it exciting. It's not like there's just two. A few years ago, you had Cairoli, Geyser, and Hurlings, and that was kind of the three. Now there's still 3 or 4 really fast guys.
Yeah, Hurlings is obviously the clear favourite, but Sewer, Prado, Febvre. I feel like I'm missing a guy, or maybe that was Geyser.
Prado, because you keep forgetting about Prado.
He said Prado.
I think I said Prado then,
okay.
didn't I?
Okay.
So yeah, no, there are guys who can challenge Hurlings, but they need to prove themselves a little bit. Whereas Geyser obviously didn't need to do that because we know how good he is. Although he kind of did need to prove himself against Hurlings, but I'll save that for another day.
Okay.
But no, yeah, we have. It is a shame, but it's not. Yeah, like you say, it's not like MXGP is now a write-off. MXGP is still going to be good.
Yeah, I want to pull for Sewer, but somebody didn't introduce me, and I don't know, man.
I don't know. That guy sounds like he really struggles with that sort of social interaction.
All right,
you did get to breathe the same air as him, so that's something.
I sat right next to him, yes. 60 picks for Arlington. Last week, I picked Sexton, Eli, and Webb. Nobody was right, again. You picked Webb, Sexton, Eli, and ML picked Sexton, Webb, Eli. So we were all incorrect, but we're all close.
Wait, I picked Webb to win?
Yep. That's what I wrote down.
I don't think that's what I said.
Well, that's what I wrote down, so that's what we're going with. So, but Arlington, Lewis, I'm going to let you go first.
Let me see. Who would I pick for the win? I will go Sexton for the win. Triple Crown, I feel like it's got to happen. I will go Eli second with one of the main event wins. And then I will go Webb third, but I did have an urge to put Anderson third. But I'm going to go Webb third because it seems, based on the separation we saw in Oakland, it seems absurd to put Webb off the podium.
Well,
but yes, so that's my pick.
I made a note that JA was a question mark. Scotty, who's your picks?
I'm going to go Sexton, and then I'm going to go. It's so hard. I know it's so hard because I want to do something.
Geisler, maybe.
Geisler. Oh my god. I want to like change it up but be completely different. But I know it's not going to happen. So, but I guess I'll just go for it. Let's go. Sexton winning, Cooper second, and I'm going to go AP third.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I know that's not going to happen because Tomac's not going to. I mean, he's going to be on the podium as a Triple Crown, and he's like statistically the best guy there. But let's just make it interessante.
Well, I think we're all going Sexton. He's going to win one of these. Sexton, Webb, Eli is my picks, and I'm going to go with the 250 overall for the Triple Crown. We don't normally do it in our 60 picks, but I'm going to go Hayden Deegan. Hayden Deegan wins the Triple Crown. Hayden Deegan wins the Triple Crown. What about you, Scotty? Who you got?
I think him to get a podium in Triple Crown would be just a giant step. But you're going to go win?
I'm going for the win. I already said it. Who you got?
I think the Lawrence brothers are going to go stay on the train of winning. Oh no, Jet didn't win all of them, but I think Hunter's going to keep the streak alive.
Lewis?
I will go Hunter as well, but you know what? I don't think you're crazy with the Hayden thing.
Consistency. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't think he'll win one of the mains.
Right,
I can
me either.
see him winning the overall with 4-2-2.
Yeah, or 4-3-2 or something along those lines. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So we're going to find out.
Fair analogy.
Go ahead, Lewis.
Maybe a good pick now that I'm thinking about the consistency side.
Oh, you froze. You froze up there, Lewis. So while we're waiting to get you back, I want to thank 6D. Since its inception almost 12 years ago, 6D helmets have been dedicated to the relentless pursuit of brain protection. From the original ATR-1 to a successor, the ATR-2, the goal was to develop a revolutionary design concept utilizing creative, forward-thinking technology that would change the market and improve the safety capabilities of the sports helmets. The helmet is the most important piece of protective equipment you will purchase, so visit 6dhelmets.com or go to your local dealership and ask for 6D. Lewis, you broke up when you were talking there about his Hayden's consistency?
Oh, yeah, did you not get any of that?
No, it froze.
Oh, what I was saying was that speaking about consistency, an outside bet on that front may be Vial because he's probably going to whole shot all three main events. So could he hang in there and maybe win the overall? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me purely because of the starts and the shorter races.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Lewis, I really thought you were going to say Anstey being for consistency, but Vial's a good point
too. Because everyone says that I'm biased, but clearly not. Clearly, I always follow my heart with what I say.
Before we wrap this thing up, I want to remind you guys that we do have a MotoXPod Show, Pulp MX Fantasy League. Go search that out. Join, play with us. I'm going to work on getting some prizes for that. I need to pay more attention to our league and see who's leading. So starting next week, I'll have some updates. We'll do like our top 3. I'll find some prizes. I'm sure I can get somebody to give some stuff out for at least the top 3 at the end of the season. I'll work on that. Go. If you're not watching the MotoXPod Show on the Vital MX YouTube channel, please go subscribe. Check it out. I hope we're getting better. Go to your email. Use motoxpodshow@gmail.com. Send in your questions, your comments, your thoughts, so we can read those on air. We need to get some of those. I want to see what everybody's thinking of the show, what we can improve on, whether you like Michael Lindsay or Lewis Phillips better, who we should have more on. Maybe we'll do like a death match, and one of them will just have to go. What do you think?
Everyone hates me.
I don't think that's true at all. I've seen lots of positives.
I'll say everybody hates everybody.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of that. But I do want to thank all of our sponsors tonight. Race Tech and Boysen for being the presenting sponsors. Prox, X-Brand Goggles, Guts Racing, FXR, 6D Helmets, Luxon, Motul, WUSA. Appreciate all those. I think Shane McElrath and... I just blanked. Why am I blanking? Pierce Brown for coming on the show. Mm-hmm. Lewis, thanks for joining us. I know it's early in the... What time is it there?
2:46.
2:46 a.m.
But, yeah, I'm sorry because... we thought that my mic was all amazing, and it did sound amazing, but for some reason it didn't work with YouTube. So it would have worked. It would have worked with the podcast side. I
think it was working earlier, but then I had to unplug cables and change things around to get the intro put in. I think that was on me personally.
Oh.
So next week or next time Lewis is on, we should have the bugs worked out. I'm sure the sound. I don't know how everybody thinks. There was a buzz last week. I think that's gone now. We are doing our best to make this better. I am working on getting better at trying to be a little more natural with the reads because I am used to having pre-recorded commercials. So please tell your friends about the show. Continue to follow it. We had a good time. I think the show was really good this week. Scotty, thank you for being in the studio. Lewis, thanks for joining us. We're out.